everyone, this is our allotment garden. We've had it for about a year now. We're using different growing methods here. We have some raised beds set up as well as some in-ground beds. We're also using grow bags for different crops that we're planting. We do this to kind of see what works best for different crops as well as experiment a little bit in the garden and just have some fun.
In this part of the garden, we have set up a raised bed where we're using the square foot gardening method. What that means is that we have split up the bed into square foot sections. We did this to maximize their growing space and grow the most food in the limited amount of space that we have. So here I'm planting a little broccoli seedling that we started indoors a few weeks earlier. A broccoli plant needs quite a bit of space, so only one plant per square foot should be planted in this particular method. Um, so here's a little seedling going in the ground, just making sure it's nice and snug before we water it in so it can start growing. For square foot gardening to work well, companion planting is really important. So whenever we plant something, we need to kind of make sure that the plants surrounding it are good companions. They either provide beneficial influence or they just sort of don't take nutrients away from its neighbors. So here we're going to be planting some kale seeds. Um, and so this is the improved Siberian variety. I prepared a tag for it to make sure that I don't forget what I've planted or when I planted the seeds so I can track them when they start germinating or when it's time to harvest. Um, Kale seeds are really tiny, so I'm making really small indentations in the ground. They really only need to go into the ground at about a quarter of an inch deep or so. Um, it's recommended to plant about 4 seeds per square foot, but I'm going with 5 just to make sure that if some of them don't germinate, I have the rest of them that will give me a good crop. So these super tiny seeds are going in the ground. 4 per square foot would be just fine, but 5 is probably okay too. We'll see how many of them actually come up. So we'll be sure to water them in so that they can start growing. Our next companion plant is beets. Beets grow really well with brassicas like kale and broccoli, so it's a good spot for them. So the variety I've chosen here is Early Wonder Tall Top. I haven't been successful growing this particular variety before, so I'm really curious to see how they do here. And here's my handy dandy tag to make sure I don't forget the variety planted and the date I planted them. It really just makes it easier for me to track things. Beet seeds are much larger, and they need about an inch to be planted, an inch of soil above them to be planted. And these are compound seeds, so each seed will often produce more than one plant. When it comes to square foot gardening, 9 seeds per square foot is actually just fine. They won't overcrowd each other and they will grow quite well. So I'm making those indentations and planting these seeds about an inch or so deep. And if we're getting some extras, that's just perfect. Once I get them all planted, we'll be sure to water them in so that they can grow well. And here they go. And here we're going to plant some lettuce seeds. Lettuce is a really cool plant. It's a good companion to most plants, so it works well with both beets and broccoli. The variety I'm going for here is butterhead lettuce. I really like this variety. It produces really nice, compact green lettuce heads. And here's a little tag that I've prepared for it just to make sure I don't forget about it and what it is. So we'll position that and start planting. The seeds are really tiny, so they really need to be barely covered with soil, not more than a quarter of an inch. And when it comes to square foot gardening, 4 per square foot is what's recommended. I like to throw a fifth one in just to kind of guarantee that I have some seeds coming through just in case germination isn't that great. So I'm setting up 5 little indentations here for the tiny, tiny seeds I've got. And as soon as I cover them up with soil, I'll be sure to water them in. Lettuce definitely likes a lot of water, so we'll be sure to keep it nice and watered. And we do have some in-ground beds as well, but we won't be planting there today. We will be planting in this grow bag that we have set up. I really like planting potatoes in the grow bag. It just makes it so much easier to harvest them. I don't have to dig them out, and it's just really easy to manage. Now, I don't bother buying seed potatoes. I simply get grocery store potatoes and allow them to sprout, just like this. I plant 2 potatoes per grow bag. I find that that gives them enough space to grow properly. So potatoes need to go pretty deeply into the ground inside the grow bag. Um, and once I plant them in, I need to make sure to water them in well so that they can grow. Now these are just regular white potatoes, but you can really plant any variety that you find in your local grocery store. This is another raised bed. We're not using the square foot gardening method here. We'll just be planting things freely. And for this raised bed, we'll be planting some fava beans. Delicious. Fava beans are really large seeds, so they need to be planted about 1 to 2 inches deep. So I'll be sure to make indentations for them about 1 to 2 inches in the ground. They can take some time to germinate just because of their size, but once they get going, they grow pretty fast and they produce really, really tasty broad beans. So the spacing for these needs to be about 4 inches or so. So I'm trying to kind of space them out appropriately, although I tend to kind of overcrowd things a little bit just to get the maximum amount of crops from the small amount of space that we have. So this is the beginning of our spring planting season. We'll keep you posted on how things are going in the ground, how things are growing, how things are not growing, and how things are progressing. So we'll be in touch and see you soon.